The media didn't just cover Angel Reese, they created her. Former NBA player Eaton Thomas just set the internet on fire.
Really clear that they made Angel Reese the villain after she beat Caitlin Clark, who was really kind of held up as, the great white hope. She's a fantastic player, but then the media kind of went into this narrative of the villain, and that's what happened.
Calling out how the sports world has turned Angel Reese into the black villain of women's basketball. It's the classic setup. One player gets love, the other gets the hate. Caitlin Clark is the golden girl, the face of the WNBA's new era, while Reese, she's been painted as the problem, the bad guy, the one people love to root against. But is it really that simple? Or is this the oldest play in the media's book, turning race, rivalry, and controversy into cash? Thomas didn't hold back, dropping a bombshell take that rips open a much bigger issue. He says the media didn't just push Reese into the villain role, they needed her there. Why? Because nothing sells like a good versus evil story. Reese, the confident, unapologetic black player, became the perfect foil to Clark, the great white hope of basketball. And this isn't just a theory. Ratings exploded, WNBA games are breaking records, and suddenly everyone's got an opinion on women's hoops. So was this all by design? Did Angel Reese really deserve the hate? Or was she set up to play the part of the villain to make the WNBA more marketable? And if so, what does that say about the game, the media, and us as fans? Let's break it all down. But before we dive into the wildest take of the season, make sure to like this video and subscribe. We're about to unpack some hard truths, and trust me, you don't want to miss this. All right, let's get real. Former NBA player Eaton Thomas just threw gasoline on an already fiery debate. He's calling out the media, straight up exposing what he says is a manufactured narrative that turned Angel Reese into the black villain while pushing Caitlin Clark as the great white hope. But is he right? Has the media been fueling racial tension just to boost views? Let's rewind. Everything exploded in the 2023 NCAA Championship. LSU versus Iowa, Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. Tension was already in the air, but one moment flipped the script. Reese, after sealing the victory, waves her hand in front of her face, John Cena style, then points at her ring finger, the exact same taunt Clark had done just a week earlier. But here's where things got wild. When Clark did it, the media ate it up. She was competitive, fiery, a killer on the court. But when Reese returned the energy, boom, instantly labeled classless, unsportsmanlike, even a thug by some angry fans. Social media went nuclear. ESPN, Fox Sports, every talking head had an opinion. And suddenly Reese wasn't just a champion, she was the villain in women's basketball. And this is exactly where Eaton Thomas comes in. He says the media wanted a villain. They needed a contrast. And since Reese was bold, unapologetic, and, let's be real, black, she was the perfect target. Now fast forward to 2024, and Reese and Clark are no longer just college stars. They're in the WNBA, and the rivalry, it's bigger than ever. Clark enters the league as the most talked about player in women's basketball history. Every move she makes gets front-page coverage. And Reese, she's right there too, but the conversation is different. One moment that really lit the fire happened when Clark was flattened by Chicago Sky's Chennedy Carter. No call. Clark goes down hard, and Angel Reese, she celebrated it. That moment sent the internet into a frenzy. Some called it justified payback. Others said it was a cheap shot. But here's what's important. Reese got dragged through the mud again, while Carter was barely mentioned. The focus wasn't even on the actual hit, it was on Reese's reaction to it. And this is what Thomas is talking about. He says the narrative around Reese isn't about basketball anymore. It's about making her the enemy, keeping her in that villain box while Clark continues to be celebrated. Now here's where things get really interesting. Thomas doesn't just stop with Reese and Clark, he throws Paige Bueckers into the conversation. Bueckers, for those who don't know, is an absolute phenomenon. She's been dominating at UConn. She's projected to be the #1 overall pick in the WNBA draft. and she has the game to back it up. So why isn't she getting the same insane media push as Clark? Thomas has an answer. She doesn't have a black villain. Think about it. Clark's rivalry with Reese made headlines for years. People chose sides. It was turned into this race-based debate. But Bucher's? She's arguably just as good. But because she doesn't have a highly publicized black rival, the storylines aren't as juicy. She doesn't have a villain to play off of, so the media machine doesn't latch on the same way. And here's where it gets even deeper. Bucher's, unlike Clark, has actually spoken out on racial issues before. Back in 2021, when she won College Athlete of the Year at the ESPYs, she used her speech to honor black women in basketball. Thomas points out that Clark, on the other hand, has mostly stayed silent. So what does that mean? Well, Thomas is asking a pretty uncomfortable question. Is Middle America more comfortable cheering for an athlete like Clark because she's seen as the safe choice? Now let's step back from the media and talk about how this actually affects players. Because the heat from all this isn't just online drama, it's real life for these athletes. Washington Mystics star Shakira Austin isn't even directly involved in this Clark-Reese rivalry, but even she says the fallout has been brutal for women's basketball. It's getting worse, she says. The whole Caitlyn and Angel thing, it's getting pretty bad. She talks about how women in the WNBA are already fighting for respect, but now they have to deal with even more hate, especially on social media. And it's not just the players feeling it. Even Austin's dad calls her up, furious at the online trolls. He wants to fire back at them, but Austin says, "Dad, no, just ignore them." And here's a whole different angle that's blowing up right now. LSU fans are heated over whether Angel Reese should get a statue and retired jersey after leading the team to a 2023 national championship. One viral X post with over 80,000 views said, "My takeaway from today, LSU, it's time to retire Angel Reese's jersey and build that statue." But not everyone is on board. Some fans are saying, hold up, Sylvia Fowles, one of LSU's greatest players ever, doesn't even have a statue yet. And Simone Augustus just got hers. The debate is real. Did Reese do enough to get those honors now, or should LSU wait? And if you thought Reese was done making headlines, nope. Just recently at the McDonald's All-American Jam Fest, something insane happened. The #1 prospect for 2025, AJ DeBonsa, jumped over Angel Reese and pulled off a windmill slam. Yeah, you heard that right. A future NBA star literally jumped over a WNBA player. DeBonsa, who just committed to BYU, is projected to be the top pick in the 2026 NBA draft. And this dunk, it just put him on an even bigger stage. Reese, to her credit, took it all in stride. But it's another moment that keeps her name in the headlines, whether for controversy or just being part of history. Let's be real. This isn't just about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. It's about a system that needs conflict to survive. The WNBA has been fighting for attention for years, and suddenly, the moment a polarizing rivalry emerges, ratings explode. Angel Reese didn't just happen to become the villain. The sports world needed one. And historically, that villain almost always looks like Reese. Former NBA player Eaton Thomas hit a nerve when he called out how the media thrives on this dynamic. The way he sees it, Reese was never just a basketball player. She was cast in a role. Her confidence, her trash talk, her unapologetic attitude, those should be celebrated, not demonized. But in a world where narratives sell more than skill, it's no coincidence that she gets labeled too cocky while Clark gets praised for competitive fire. And here's the kicker. This whole setup benefits everyone, except Reese. The WNBA gets more eyes. The networks cash in. Clark becomes an even bigger superstar, but Reese, she's left carrying the weight of a label she never asked for. And it's not just her. This pattern has played out for decades in sports. Look at Serena Williams, Sha'Carri Richardson, even back to Muhammad Ali. Black athletes who play with passion are seen as threats. So where does that leave us? If Angel Reese was made into a villain, who's really winning? And if the media can decide who's the hero and who's the problem, are we even watching sports anymore? Or just a scripted drama? Angel Reese didn't create the villain role. The game did. And if we don't question it now, It'll keep happening over and over again. And that's a wrap. But now I want to hear from you. Do you think the media intentionally turned Angel Reese into the black villain? Or is this just how sports rivalries work? If Reese and Clark switched roles, do you think the reaction would have been different? Also, do you believe Caitlin Clark should publicly address the racial controversy surrounding her and Reese, or is that not her responsibility? And what about Paige Buckers? Do you agree with Etan Thomas that she hasn't reached Clark's level of fame because she lacks a so-called black villain? Drop all your takes in the comments. I need to know what y'all think. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, smash that like button and subscribe to stay tapped into the biggest WNBA debates, drama, and insider stories. Oh, and don't forget to hit that notification bell, because trust me, this conversation isn't over. It's just getting started. All right, that's it for now. Catch y'all in the next one.